Thank you. I'll confirm when we're live.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can confirm the webcast has now started.
Thank you. Thank you for attending this virtual meeting of my Education and Skills Decision Day. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. Thank you everyone for joining today. I've got 2 items on my agenda today. The first item is the expansion of Osborne School on the site of the King's School, and I believe that Steve is going to.
Steve Clove, for the avoidance of doubt, is going to walk us through it. Too many Steves.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Chad. Just to, there were 2 or 3 things which were raised at your briefing, which I'd like to just conclude. One was Steve asked about the position with regard to protecting the County Council's interest if either school were to become academy. So I'm pleased to say that my estates team have confirmed that it will be possible to protect the County Council's interests, and that we have a framework in place to do that. And I have circulated a private briefing note to you and Steve to confirm that, if you would like to read a bit more detail. And I have added a section later in the report just to make sure that's on public record. Secondly, Chairman, you asked me about had we carefully considered the travel, parking and pupil arrival arrangements, given that it's a special school building on a secondary school site. So I've gone back and checked that with my team, and I'm pleased to say that we've been through quite a lot of detail about this and have considered it. And I suppose the ultimate outcome was that all parties consulted were content with the proposals. And finally, I'm pleased to report that on the 1st of September, actually, I wasn't aware of this, but just before your briefing meeting, because I had just come back from holiday, that the building has received planning permission. It was a delegated approval on the basis there were actually no substantive objections. So I think all successful so far, and nothing further to add since your briefing, Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for covering those additional points that came up in the Chairman's briefing as well. I think these are much needed places for our children, and I think it's wonderful that the Kings have got the space to accommodate Osborne School, and it's a really positive move, I feel. Does anyone have, I don't have any further questions. Does anyone else have any further questions that they would like to ask? No. Then I'm happy to approve this and look forward to seeing it all come to life. It'll be great.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the appointment to the outside body organisation of Bramshot Education Trust. I would like to propose that I defer this decision as I require further discussions with individuals in regards to membership of this. And that's, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask about that or query? No? Then I think that is it. Is that correct, Jackie?
Thank you. We can defer that to a future decision day.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, that's it from me. I would like to hand over to Councillor Stallard now for her decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chad, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to this, I think, quite a significant decision day for me. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube and also via the County Council website. The first item I have on my agenda is deputations, and I understand that this afternoon Councillor Jackie Porter will be speaking on the capital programme item as the opposition spokesperson. I wonder if Councillor Porter would confirm that she is in fact there.
Just to confirm, Councillor Stallard, she's not actually joined the meeting.
Right.
I can try and call her to invite her in, which I'll do now.
Well, there's no immediate rush, Jackie, because there
Okay.
are a couple of items to come before that, okay? But I will work on the assumption that she will be attending virtually later on this afternoon.
Okay.
If I start with item 1 on my part of the agenda, it's the Children's Services. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. It is the first item she wishes to speak to, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Let me just see if I can call her. It might be that she's busy on another meeting, but I will do my best.
My plan is that I will invite Councillor Porter to make any statement that she wishes to make prior to the officers introducing the paper, because officers may wish to pick up any points made by Councillor Porter.
She's not responding, Councillor Stallard, so it could be that she's tied up with other council business.
In that case, I will proceed, but is it possible for you to let me know as soon as she does tune into the meeting?
Yeah, I will do. Thank you.
Right. So it's the Children's Services Capital Programme update, and I'm not sure who's going to introduce that one.
Pete Colnut will introduce this for you, Chair.
Right, over to you then, Pete.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to say there's been no substantive changes since your briefing. We made 1 or 2 minor tweaks to the wording as we discussed, but the report remains as shared at your briefing session a couple of weeks ago. Thank you.
Well, that's what I call a very, very brief introduction, so thank you for that. Are there any other officers who wish to make any comment on the contents of the report? No?
Well, the only thing to say, Councillor Stallard, is that there's some really positive news within this report, and which I'm sure you've spotted, particularly around the provision for young people around public health and encouraging activity.
Yes, I would agree with that, Mr. Crocker. The recommendations are set out on page 3. There are a total of 7 recommendations. I take it Councillor Porter is still not with us.
I'm just going to call her mobile now. I've not received a response from her, Councillor Stallard.
Right, thank you very much. It is about 8 minutes past, so I would have expected her to join us by now, knowing that it's the first item on my agenda. So I will proceed. If I can refer everyone to the recommendations on page 3, there are a total of 7 recommendations. I am very pleased and very content to approve all those recommendations, because as Peter Colnut has already implied, we have had lengthy briefings on this document. It is a very positive document. There are lots of good points in that, not least of which, of course, are the Healthy Pupils Capital Fund, which I think is certainly a series of good news items. It is a very positive document throughout, and I am extremely pleased to be able to approve all those recommendations. So we now go on to item 2, which is the school meals prices from November of this year, from November of 2020. You will find that in the document pack on pages 23 to 30, and the recommendations are set out on page 23. I'm not sure, is this Sean who's going to be...
Chair Sean Lepeak from CCBS will introduce this item.
Right, thank you. Sean, are you there?
Yes, Councillor Stallard, thank you. Yes, this, as you say, this is the annual pricing review for the school meal price. This is reviewed every year by yourself as executive member, and it's based on the estimated cost over the next 12 months of providing a school meal. And the recommendation is that price should increase from the current £2.40 to £2.50. in addition, it's worth noting that schools are charged for universal infant free school meals by their catering provider, including HC3S. And our recommendation is that recognises the fact that actually the funding to schools is at £2.34, and obviously therefore there's a difference between that funding to schools and the suggested meal price of £2.50. So what we're suggesting is that cost is shared between schools and HC3S, and therefore we'll charge £2.40, so that we're recognising that schools have to put some money into that price, and also HC3S is also funding that difference as well. Otherwise, there's no changes to since your briefing, Councillor Stallard, and the recommendations are as in the report.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Sean. It's quite clear from the paper that you have in front of you today that an awful lot of preparatory work has gone into this, and some comparisons with other local authorities, which I found especially useful. No one wishes to impose any price increases, especially at these times, but we also have to ensure that our children get good quality food, and that the suppliers and the providers can continue to be in operation to meet that demand for our children. So that is really important. I know I did mention it briefly, but you can reassure me that the schools are aware that we are revising the prices.
Yes, that's right, Councillor Stallard. They're used to an annual price review, and they've actually asked us about that information. And we are also taking more information to the Schools Resources Group and the Schools Forum as well.
So this is not going to come as some unknown surprise to them.
They're used to the price being reviewed and changed annually, yes.
Yes, okay, right. All right. I've asked all the questions I wished to ask previously. Does anybody else wish to ask a question this afternoon on the paper before us? Right, in that case, the recommendations are on page 23. There are two recommendations: that the guide price of a primary school meal provided by HC3S will be increased to £2.50 from November this year, November 2020, and that the charge to schools for those meals which are provided by HC3S under the government's Universal Infant Free School Meals funding will be increased to £2.40 per meal, again from November 2020 this year. And I am content to agree those two recommendations. And thank you, and Sean and your team, for all the preparatory work that you've gone through in order to bring this paper forward today.
Thank you, Councillor Stallard. Thank you.
I do appreciate very much the time that you've taken to reassure me that this is not out of sync with other local authorities. So thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, if I can find paper 3, we have item 3 on my part of the agenda, which is the statements of purpose for Hampshire Children's Homes Fostering and Adoption Service. Now, I'm not sure who's going to speak to the main part of the document, not of course to the appendices, because they are restricted. Is that going to be Kieran, or?
It is indeed, but perhaps I should explain, just for the purpose of any person who's watching on the webcast, that the reason they're restricted is because they contain details about the particular children's homes which could make them identifiable, and for fairly obvious reasons we don't want to do that, and in fact that's permitted within the law. So that notwithstanding that, Kieran will take you through the headlines, and also the fact that we've produced a appendix which highlights the changes rather than every single going to have to go through every single document. Kieran, is there anything you want to add?
No, not really. I mean, we changed some of the formatting and the ordering of the report in order to make that appendix the first one, but other than that there haven't been any changes since the briefing.
Right, okay. I think that point was very well made by Mr. Crocker about the fact that the appendices contain some personal data, and we quite obviously would not wish individuals to be identified, so that's really important. This was quite an undertaking for you, I believe, Kieran.
It's each one of them is an important document, though, and they guide us for the year ahead. So they're very important, and they're part of how we make sure our staff know exactly what they're doing and the children know what they can expect.
Okay. Yes. Quite a lengthy document though, but one which you say it's done annually?
Yes.
Yes. So you approve them annually. We do make some minor changes throughout the year if we have changes in personnel, but we don't bring them to a decision day each and every time because they happen quite frequently. We come to you annually or when there's a major update or change to them.
Okay. Well, we previously mentioned the fact that the appendices to this document were in fact exempt. So I will preface my next comments by saying that I have considered the exempt appendices when making my decision today. All right, so with that in mind, if we now turn to page 31, where there is one recommendation, that I approve the updated statements of purpose for the children's homes, the fostering service and the adoption service, which indeed I do, so that is my decision. And I'm pleased to do that. And again, thank you very much indeed, Kieran, for I think many hours of work which went behind that document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Now I believe that I need to ask for the exclusion of the press and the public and the webcam to be stopped, as we have to consider the exempt documents. Jackie?
Thank you. Please